Are you guys aware of that? It's in my Worldview report broadcast tonight. But yes, they were going at each other on social media. And this, of course, then finally led to this tweet we have by President Trump. Joining me to discuss all this again is Colonel Rob Maness of robmaness.com each and every day, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, and on demand, robmaness.com and worldviewtube.com. Colonel, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to be on.
Okay, I wasn't expecting this social truth or truth plus social, whatever you want to call it, truth social tweet today at all. Were you? I mean, and what do you make of this? I mean, I don't know.
No.
Of course, we don't have this. We didn't have this kind of technology with, back in the day and even in our modern times. But this isn't generally how a president communicates with other world leaders, is it?
Well, it's how Donald Trump communicates. It has for a long time. So it doesn't surprise me. There's a political and a national security side to these types of things, especially between nuclear powers. And the political messaging here is to President Putin. Call your dog off right now. I've had enough of him. And then the national security piece of it is in the nuclear deterrence world, ambiguity is in the mind of the adversary is very, very important. Okay. So taking a look at the president's post there is still ambiguity there, but it's very unusual for a president of the United States or any American military commander to make any pronouncement whatsoever about the location of U.S. submarines. Now, all of our submarines, as far as I know, are nuclear-powered submarines. So he didn't say nuclear missile shooting submarines. He just said nuclear submarines. And if you remember, one of the targets in Iran was attacked with Tomahawk cruise missiles fired from nuclear submarines out in the Persian Gulf. So there's several things going on with one statement. And if the president of the United States was going to talk about the location of our submarines at all, no matter what type they are, as far as attack submarines, which is what most of the Tomahawks are fired from, or what we call boomers, the sea-launched ballistic missile submarines that are our most closely guarded secret, but and the secret of their location and where they're at, where they're patrolling, is our ace in the hole to be able to deter a nuclear attack, because it always assures that there will be a response from the United States if we come under nuclear attack, and it will be devastating. So the president's post, while it's a little bit unusual for past commanders in chief, it's not unusual for him. The unusual piece of it, though, is talking about nuclear submarines, but he doesn't really say where they're at, where they're really going to be. There is a very large part of the globe where these submarines could be that they could still hit targets inside of Russia if they needed to. But it's definitely a political and military message to President Putin, because the president has openly stated, President Trump has, that he's very frustrated with President Putin because he gets him on the phone, has a very nice conversation, and he goes out and kills more people. Unfortunately, though, Russia and Ukraine are in a war that has a lot of complicated history, and the United States and NATO have made some complicated and, in my opinion, some very dumb decisions about prolonging that war, and that's where we're at.
Well, including
Russia is not Iran or Israel or any other adversary. It's the ones with the most nuclear weapons of any nation in the world. So those types of discussions, communications, etc., are going to be at that type of level.
Including, of course, our CIA having 10 military bases over there in Ukraine, and then you've got, I think, our CIA and the intel helping to target Russian targets for Ukraine deep inside Russia, giving them weapons under the Biden regime and now under the Trump administration. And apparently these drones are still going in with the help of Western nations, including our CIA, many believe. to the point that somebody's hacking on the banking system in Russia. I wonder who that could be. And Russia apparently is having to shut down their own cell towers because some of those drones apparently were using the cell towers like a GPS.
Mhm. Right.
And I think our CIA's got their fingerprints all over this. So I don't know. I was reading today. There's a segment. I don't know whether it's true or not. I mean, I don't know. I was reading a report today though that John Brennan still got his fingers in the CIA and is controlling some of aspects or portions of the CIA. Again, I wonder, is there a dark op side to the CIA that's actually not even under the control of the Trump administration?
Oh, nobody should be surprised about two things that you mentioned. One, that our national security establishment, which the CIA is a key part of, is all in on Ukraine against Russia. Mm-hmm. They're acting. They're actors. They're not just passively sitting back or helping them draw up plans or teaching them how to use equipment. We are active in this. This is not it shouldn't be a secret to anybody at this point. It's why we've been sounding the alarm for 3 years about it, and even before it kicked off here in 2022. That this is a very dangerous situation, and this is while it's a small escalatory move, it is an escalatory move in response to Putin's being intransigent about the peace talks that President Trump has, so ardently tried to get started and get moving forward in a meaningful way, and he's frustrated by that. But then when you have your deputy national security advisor making public comments about military action and threats and those kind of things, at some point, somebody's going to respond. And this, so far as that response, it's unfortunate because we've been warning that things will come to this for a long, long time. And it's over an interest that is not vital. The location of the eastern and southern border of Ukraine is not a vital interest of the United States of America. And I don't want to see any Americans lose their lives over that border.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just not. It's just not. And nobody should want to see that. But we are where we are, and the past is the past. But now we are where we are, and this is just the next step.
On Wednesday night, I guess President Trump he put a post out there on Truth Social and called Medvedev a quote failed former Russian president, end quote. And he's told him that he had better watch his words. Well, I guess from there, you ended up with a response by Medvedev himself. He responded, and he said that Russia isn't Israel, we're not Iran. Yeah. And he actually said that with each new ultimatum, we're a step closer towards war. And then, of course...
Yeah, I mean, I would see, with a tweet like that, what you should expect to see from the Russian nuclear forces, especially, is moves to make sure that they are survivable. So if their mobile missiles will be out moving around, we'll see those on our satellites if that's what they're doing. Their bombers may be, in fact, being loaded with nuclear weapons right now to put on a hair trigger alert. May see that through our intelligence assets, and then their forces that would have to respond and be able to fight in a nuclear warfare environment. Would see logistics moves to make sure that they are prepared and ready to do that from a training perspective, from a gear equipment perspective, and those kind of things. Because my guess is that like the forces in Ukraine right now, which are a significant size of their armed forces, are not carrying that kind of gear. So those are the kind of things that this type of messaging can kick off. And then once that happens, then you'll see the same things be recommended on our side. That doesn't necessarily mean the president will make that decision to do kinds of things, but it resets that table where we were at in the early 1990s when the Soviet Union fell and President Bush took us all off of nuclear alert. I was one of the last aircraft to call off a nuclear alert at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. As a matter of fact, I was the last tanker to call off of nuclear alert. And we haven't been on alert since then, but you may see that come back.
Wow.
If we see these type of activities, that's pretty standard from a nuclear forces perspective. they're going to try to make sure their forces are survivable in the event of an attack on them. This tweet kind of sets that plate for.
During COVID and the height of COVID and right after the height of COVID, freeze-dried food sales, emergency supply sales were just off the chain. 3 tractor trailer loads in a month coming into our warehouse to fill the demand. One month. Now sales are very soft across the whole industry. It's not just us. I mean, you could say, well, that's because a lot of your folks are smart, Brandon, and they got it. They got what they needed. And I would say, okay. But the problem is it's soft all over the whole industry. In other words, the American people felt the need to stock up, prepare because of all the shortages and whatnot they saw before. And then they, I guess, feel comfortable. And that leads me to wonder, whenever I see these kind of things, and I bet I know you, when I see these kind of things, I go through my plan and say, oh, I need to update. I need to add some things. I have some things I buy that I rotate in and out to supplement my freeze-dried food. Now it's time to go and, stock those things back up. Plenty of deodorant, toothpaste, all the necessities, essentials. I'm constantly, my wife and I are constantly draining on that recyclable, that closet full of basically our own little grocery store, our own little pharmacy, or what do you want to call it, drugstore, right? And we have the freeze-dried food, got lots of that. But that one closet, we just rotate. I don't go down the street to the drugstore when I need shaving cream. I go to the closet. So I'm constantly restocking. When I come back, I want to ask you about the American people preparing, and then go to Andy Woods.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate undersink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Don't forget about our upcoming national conference, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, with Gordon Chang, Sidney Powell, Alex Newman, Chris Martinson, Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Polling, Dr. Andy Woods, Hedia. Am I leaving anybody out? Oh, Dr. Lana. Last night, by the way, we had is that up on the online yet, Logan? WorldViewTube.com, the blue, what's it called? Methylene blue. Thank you. Methylene blue. There's a lot of talk about methylene blue. Do you know what it is? You know it's in the psychotropic family? A friend of mine texted me last night, said, I need that show as soon as it's online. He was watching it live. Because I'm taking it, and I've been told other people to take it. Now I got to get off of it and tell everybody to get off of it. And I was interviewing psychiatrist Dr. Peter Breggin, who's known as the conscience of psychiatry. He was saying, I've been trying to warn the Maha movement, because I guess RFK Jr. takes it. He said, I've been trying to warn the Maha movement, you do not want to be promoting methylene blue for people to take. No, you do not. And so last night I had Dr. Peter Breggin on about it and why it's dangerous. Okay? You'll find that at worldviewtube.com. By the way, we got a clip on the harvesting of organs. If you're on the donor list, remember us doing that show last week with the anesthesiologist? That clip is now in what, Logan? 3 days? Done almost 2 million views, right, Logan? Almost 2 million views in 3 days. Incredible. Incredible. All right, worldviewtube.com. We've put a lot of stuff up there, folks. All right, Colonel Rob Maness from robmaness.com joins me for a few more minutes. Then Dr. Andy Woods. Breaking news, President Trump puts out on Truth Social today, he's moving subs into an appropriate region directed at Russia. So before the break, I was asking you about the fact that we had a lot of the conservative, maybe non-conservatives as well, but a lot of the patriots, conservatives were really getting stocked up during and after COVID. They don't want to be caught flat-footed again. But then everyone seems to have settled down. People aren't taking it, that seriously when it comes to getting supplies. Do you think the American people understand the seriousness of this hour as we move closer and closer to World War III and what that would mean for America? As Gordon Chang says, the next war is going to be fought on our own soil with the cyber attacks, terrorist attacks. I mean, you would think that people would still be budgeting, because not a lot of people can just buy everything they need at one crack. They need a budget for it. You would think that this would be a very vital, brisk sales right now. But it's like crickets. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you about the awareness of the American people as to where we're at?
Well, they've spent, especially on this particular conflict, the Ukraine-Russia one, they've spent 3 years or more being fed information that's not necessarily correct, so that the government's position could look patriotic, the right thing to do, in defense of democracy, all of those messages. And we saw the whistleblower, he was going to be a whistleblower, the whistleblower out of the New Jersey Air National Guard unit, the young enlisted intel kid, who shouldn't have released classified information. Let's just put it that way. He broke the law, and I think he got his due punishment for that. But the information he released showed that we were downplaying the Ukrainian casualties and upplaying Russian casualties when that happened. So the American people have been slowly messaged a disinformation campaign, and I use that term intentionally because that's an intentional military operation. A disinformation campaign. They've been slowly fed this disinformation campaign to not worry about it. It's okay. You have retired 4-star generals saying things like Putin rattles his nuclear saber all the time. Don't worry about it. Move forward. Kick butt. Get out there. Push your shoulder into this fight more. The Ukrainians can win. There's nothing the Ukrainians can do without U.S. forces on the ground and in the air and in space, and at sea, supporting them to defeat the Russians and kick them out of their country. Nothing. There's nothing they can do. Even if they had nuclear weapons, they wouldn't be able to do it. Okay? So this messaging has lulled the American people into this position to where it's hey, it's not a big deal. Everything's okay. Even though we have deployed tens of thousands of Americans into the eastern NATO countries in order to deter Russia from this so-called invasion of Western Europe that the retired 4-star generals and national security and foreign policy elites has said that Russia wants to do and intends to do. I still have seen no factual evidence of that, either from Putin's mouth or anybody else in it, even Medvedev in his administration. And Medvedev's probably the most ardent warmonger voice that you hear over there. So that doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that there's no evidence of it that's seeable in the public at this point, and so that's where we're at. Unfortunately, Brandon, is people are just like, well, we're continuing on. We're not really involved because we're just giving them stuff, and we're giving them so much stuff that we can't produce enough artillery shells to keep them in inventory and restock our own supplies that we used during the long war against terrorism, and that's where they're at. Unfortunately, it's hard to get into the mind of a population, but that's my guess. That's where they're at.
Well, and of course, that's very dangerous because it means that if something happens and there is a disruption of critical infrastructure, power grid, and just-in-time inventory, et cetera, a lot of people are going to be dependent on the government, which is exactly what we're opposed to. And that's a very stupid thing to ever be dependent on the government, because the government is made up of, largely people that, they can't do anything for the most part right. The military is one of the few things they can do right. They can't. Well, I was just reporting the other night on the.
Well, and we haven't really been doing that right. I mean, we won the global war on terror against Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, and then decided to stay there and build a democracy that wasn't ever going to work for that part of the world, and we left in a disaster, a debacle as bad as Vietnam debacle of leaving. So no, we haven't done anything right in the military either. Don't buy into that. That's propaganda. Look, I
was trying to be nice since you're former military.
I've been a commander. I was a commander in the global war on terror. I told my boss when I left my last combat tour in 2005, my deputy and I spoke with my boss in a debriefing, and we said, "Hey, we don't have a strategy for this, and we've won. It's time to go home, hand this country back to their people, and let them figure it out." But the decision was made after I left that no, we're going to build a democracy. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there we are, on August, on August 13th of 22, if I remember my time frame correctly, or in August, we lost 13 troops at that airport there while we're trying to escape.
Abbey Gate.
And we're trying to escape. And we got all these videos that people thought were fake of Afghanis trying to get on C-17s while they're taxiing, and after they're airborne, falling off of them because they were holding on to the wheels of the airplane or some other structure, and falling, at 500 feet to their deaths. And they were real, So no, we haven't done anything right. The generals and admirals that were in charge of that need to be held accountable, and none of them have been held accountable. Hopefully that's going to happen under Pete Hegseth
I hope
and
so.
Donald Trump.
Well, there you go.
No, not even that stuff. Not even that institution.
Not even that institution. Yeah. So there you go, folks. You better be ready. You better be ready, because Europe wants to go to war. They seem really set on it. We have the Fed. I was reading today is $900 billion in debt. The Fed. I mean, I'm going to be getting into some of this tonight. There's a lot of reasons, folks, for a good war that checks all the boxes. Wow. All right. More tonight. Colonel Rob Maness back tonight on Brandon House Live. In the meantime, you can check out his show every day at worldviewtube.com and robmaness.com. Colonel Rob Maness, as always. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brandon.
Talk to you later. Colonel Rob Maness checking in. Let's go right away to Dr. Andy Woods, see what he thinks of this. Dr. Woods, thanks for being with us today. Normally, our Bible Prophecy Middle East update, we're going to get to some of those stories, but there will be wars and rumors of war in the last days, says the Bible. What are your thoughts on what you just heard, Dr. Andy Woods?
Well, as you guys were talking, you mentioned Russia, you mentioned Israel, you mentioned Iran. And it's like, hello, that's what we talk about all the time. Of course, we're referring to the Gog-Magog invasion, Ezekiel 38 and 39. Ezekiel 2,600 years ago says those are going to be the principal players or invaders of Israel in the last days. And so is it a shock, I guess I should ask, that Russia would be, belligerent and bellicose to the point where Trump reacts to it? I mean, is it a shock to hear Colonel Maness talk about Iran? Is it a shock to hear Israel's name being, kind of woven into the subject matter of your discussion? I mean, I don't know if 50 years ago we would be talking about these identical players, but here we are just on a normal daily broadcast bringing these things up. And it's just the fact that these entities are just discussed today in casual conversation, shows us where we are in the prophetic timeline.
Yep, sure does. Speaking of prophetic timeline, now this guy is generally the one that put this tweet out. He's normally a pro-President Trump guy, and he says digital health care is the front. Social credit is the end game. Trump just handed them the keys. Trump just launched a digital health tech ecosystem with OpenAI, Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and Anthropic. They say it's for your health, but it's a pipeline to AI surveillance, biometric tracking, and behavior scoring. First it monitors, then it controls. Watch Trump roll it out, then watch China show you where it leads. Now, good. Again, folks, I'm thankful for so much of what the Trump administration's done, but I just got to call balls and strikes. That's my job. Okay. And when I heard this the other day, we talked about it with several of our guys, and doctors, MDs on Brand House Live, and they're all in the same. They're all the same belief. Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news. But again, whether it's George H., whether it's George Bush, whether it's Donald Trump, and then you add all the Democrats in, every administration is leading us toward setting the stage for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. There's no exception here. This whole system, wearables, encouraging the idea of wearables to monitor and track people. Dr. Woods, this is, again, something that our parents, our grandparents and great-grandparents would have never even comprehended this. But I think this guy is dead on. I don't trust OpenAI. I don't trust Peter Thiel. I don't trust Microsoft. I don't trust these companies. We'll have your response when we come back. And then let's talk about what's going on in Europe. Because Dr. Woods and I believe in a Eurocentric world government that's going to rise. We don't believe in it, but we believe there will be a Eurocentric world government that rises. Well, let's find out what's going on over in Europe, okay? All that on the other side of the break. It's Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewtube.com. Be sure to stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider coming up at 2 o'clock on the VCY America Radio Network, vcy.org, V as in Victor, vcy.org, America's original Christian talk program since the 1970s on over 100 outlets nationwide daily. We'll be right back after this.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever, you know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit, match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet, and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. All right, welcome. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website, worldviewradio.com. All right, Dr. Woods, I want you to respond. All the AI, the growth of AI, and these companies thick inside the Trump administration and now using digital. This guy's saying, look, digital health, all of that is the camouflage for what's going to be a social credit score system rolling out. Your thoughts?
Well, once things become digitized and all of our transactions are electronic and not in cash, now an electronic dossier or profile can be generated on every American. I mean, when we're dealing in cash, they have no idea what my buying and selling, habits are. So for a long time, the name of the game has been to phase out cash, and that's been happening under every administration. I don't see how it would be different if, Biden or Kamala or whoever, was currently the president. It's just basically the direction of our world. And biblically speaking, we know that the day will come when that technology is going to fall into the wrong person's hands via the Antichrist, and he will use it to enslave the world. I mean, that's clearly what the book of Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 18 is talking about. And as much as I'm bullish on Trump, and I voted for Trump 3 times, the truth of the matter is the devil always has a back door, and he's always inching us, in this direction of, completely electronic, completely digitized, cashless economy. I mean, Amazon, for example, couldn't run a profile on me and tell me and advertise to me what books I would like, and they're very accurate, when they send me emails, boy, you would love this book. Well, how do they know? Because I use a credit card and buy other books on Amazon. Now, if I did everything in cash, they couldn't run the profile on me. So that's the reality of moving into this cashless world, is it just sets the stage for totalitarianism and ultimately sets the stage for what China is currently running against its citizenry, a social credit score system. So I really wasn't happy with Trump, signing the so-called Genius Act into law. I'm not real happy about all this talk about, digital dollars, because to me, if my dollars are digital, I can be debanked or cut out of the system by somebody someday, if I don't adhere to the right narrative.
I agree. All right, let's go to Macron. I guess this is a comment recently. Listen to what he says about Israel and the Palestinians. Here we go. Macron, president of France.
First release of the stages and ceasefire. So we have to create a push.
Mr. President, does that include Palestinian hostages as well?
Yes.
And there are thousands. All the hostages. Palestinians as well.
Okay, wait a minute. On both sides. I don't think do we have hostages? Is Israel holding hostages?
Not that I know of. The last time I checked, Israel gave up territory which they use to attack Israel over and over again, by the way, but culminating in the events of October the 7th, 2023. And I guess I would call this the transforming David into Goliath strategy. If you watch the media, you would think Israel is the bad guy. You would think they're the attacker, rather than the one that was attacked. You would think that Israel is this massive country, not the size of New Jersey, surrounded by 21 or 22 hostile Islamic theocracies written in their charters to drive Israel into the Mediterranean Sea. And then you would think that the poor inhabitants of Gaza are being starved, not by the United Nations, but by Israel. And you would just have a very distorted view of the world. And that's what these reporters have when they are making up stuff like, well, Israel needs to, do its fair share also. It's kind of like what Obama said right after October the 7th. He said, we condemn this attack, but then he said the occupation is unbearable, meaning these people really had an excuse to do what they did to Israel October the 7th, because, there's this moral equivalence argument. There's plenty of blame to go around. But when you reject the propaganda and actually do a minutia amount of research on your own, you'll see that these things are not so.
Speaking of social credit scores and all that goes with that, here you go. Elite police unit. This is in the UK. Elite police unit to monitor social media for anti-migrant posts. There you go. The rising of the Orwellian state and of what I think is coming a Eurocentric world government. And they're already doing the things you would see under the Antichrist. Persecuting people of faith, conservatives, people not interested in globalism, world government, et cetera, right?
Yeah, and, sorry to state the obvious, but the feet are connected to the legs in Daniel 2. The legs is ancient Rome, the Eastern and Western divisions. The feet, the Antichrist empire being connected to the legs would mean that the Antichrist empire will start there in Europe, and Daniel 7 verse 23 will grow from there, to bring really tyranny to the entire world, Daniel 7 verse 23. So when I see tyranny in Europe and the UK, of all places, this is where parliamentarian democracy originated. I'm saying things are right on schedule. This is what God said would happen. There'd be a seed of totalitarianism growing in Europe that would grow to worldwide proportions. And look at some of the things that have happened in that part of the world. In the UK, there was a guy, we played it on our show. You probably played it on your show. He's just in the street saying, "Come on, England." Well, that's interpreted as anti-migrant, illegal migrant talk, and he's jailed, as a result. And then there's another guy, an older man who obviously had hearing problems, who said to an illegal immigrant something to the effect of, speak clearly. And that's interpreted as, well, you're putting him down because he doesn't speak your language. And so that was a potential hate crime. And J.D. Vance, to his credit, has brought this up in a White House confrontation, so to speak, with the UK leadership. And also J.D. Vance made a speech, related to this in Germany, Europe, etc., that these guys are just completely jettisoning any understanding that they used to embrace related to freedom of expression. And in fact, the technology that's being used, it's kind of like the Tom Cruise movie Minority Report, where you're jailed for thinking things, and we're going to put you in jail because we know you're going to commit a crime, even though you haven't committed a crime. And some of the articles that I've read recently, this is almost like a cue to the strongmen of the world, Khamenei, Erdogan, you name it, of how to keep their own populations under control. They're taking their cues from the UK, which is just unbelievable to me. So totalitarianism coming to the world through a Eurocentric New World Order, that's exactly what all of these stories indicate.
Yep, 100%. Let's see what else we got. Occupied Palestinian territories, joint statement, July 21st, 2025. Government of the UK. Macron wants a Palestinian state. Have they told us where they're going to declare this Palestinian state?
Well, I'm laughing because they never won it in France, right?
No, right.
They always mean the same thing by it. They want Judea and Samaria. And by the way, look at all of the nations that have signed on to this. Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Cyprus, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Greece, Japan, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the UK. Doesn't that sound a little bit like Zechariah 12, verse 3 and Zechariah 14, verse 2, where the prophecy was made that all the nations are going to come against Israel in the last days and are actually going to seek to divide Israel's land, Joel 3, verse 2. Doesn't it kind of sound like that?
Yep.
So it's just another indicator that we're moving real close to the end.
Yeah, indeed we are. All right, let's see here what else we got. Let's see. Is there anything else that I want to really hone in on? I don't guess so. Let's open the phone lines. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions on anything we've discussed. And I'd like to add in there, are any of you in this audience concerned about World War III? Do you really trust these people? Do you trust Emmanuel Macron? Do you trust Keir Starmer? These guys that are running NATO, that want to apparently go to war, they're in bad shape financially. They're not the only ones, by the way. We're in bad shape financially. $37 trillion, add your off-record unfunded liabilities, your $200 trillion. We have massive commercial real estate that's upside down. Companies that have defaulted, banks own these. The vacancy rate among these commercial buildings continues to go up. The Fed is massively in debt. It's a Ponzi scheme. Seems like a lot of governments of the world both would have a lot to gain from a war. War checks all the boxes, maybe, right? I don't know. How concerned are you? I'm not saying you have anxiety or fear. I know as Christians we put it in a lot of perspective, and I sleep very well at night. I'm not asking about are you afraid, but I am asking, are you preparing? Do you trust these people? It seems as though in a large respect for many of these leaders around the world, we have what the Bible describes in Romans 1 as fools. Vain, useless, futile, Romans 1. Are you going to trust these people not to go to war? Or are you doing like my family and I are doing and have been for some time, continuing to prepare, stock up, want to be able to help some people? Do you guys know some single mothers with children that you know you're going to probably have to reach out and help them a little bit? Or the widow in your church? Do you have maybe even some of your own kids and grandkids you're going to have to help out because they're not in a spot to be able to lay in extra supplies? Young families with tough, tight budgets. I'd like to know, are some of you preparing? Are you understanding that a wise man, a prudent man sees danger and takes refuge, and the fool ignores it and suffers for it? I'll tell you something else. As I study the book of Revelation, I think, what if I don't need any of this? What if the church is removed? Then you know what? Maybe some of my unsaved neighbors can use it. Maybe some of my unsaved friends can get their hands on it. And then maybe also my library, which is filled with plenty of books, not to mention my Revelation series, to explain what just happened. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. Right after this break, we're going to go to your calls. Keep them quick, comments quick, questions quick, and let's roll through as many callers as we can. 1-800-347-9829. Dr. Woods, his website is andywoodsministries.org, andywoodsministries.org. We're worldviewtube.com, where we have put up a ton of radio shows, TV shows. I'm on about 4 hours a day, folks. There's so much there, free of charge, brought to you as a ministry of our foundation in part, worldviewfoundation.com. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, come to Collierville, Tennessee, the Mid-South, and join us for our 22nd annual Worldview National Conference. That's right. We've been holding Worldview Weekend since February of '93, but we've been holding an annual conference every year for 22 years. And this year we've moved it to just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, in beautiful Collierville, Tennessee. And the speakers, well, here they are. Gordon Chang, Alex Newman, Sidney Powell, Dr. Lana Hedia, Dr. Andy Woods, Chris Martinson, and Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. The tickets, we brought the prices way down because we moved it away from a very beautiful resort, but it was expensive. And now moving it to the Mid-South at this beautiful, beautiful theater owned by our town of Collierville, we've been able to move the price down to just $99 a ticket. Now we only have seating for 350 people. All the details and to purchase your ticket, worldviewstore.com. You'll find out the hotels and about our Thursday night optional banquet, worldviewstore.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. Let's go to the phone lines. 1-800-347-9829. Line 1, Anonymous. Hi, Anonymous. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, Brandon. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
3 quick comments. We have to be careful not to say wolf, wolf too early. You probably understand what that means. And also, I asked Andy Woods some time ago, where in Daniel is Jesus referencing when he says the abomination of desolation? He got it right, but that's only one verse, and it's very general. There's another place in Daniel that's very specific, and then it unlocks the last oracle of Daniel.
Okay, I'll have to respond. But anonymous caller, who's calling for World War III? Who's crying wolf?
Well, when you say the end is very near, the end is very near, then that's like saying wolf, wolf.
Well, when I say the end is near, you mean?
Jesus in Matthew chapter 24, verse 6, he says, yeah, it's coming, but it's not yet.
Right.
There'll be rumors
But he
of wars.
also says to watch the signs, and he chides the religious leaders of his day who can discern the weather but not the times. And I can read the prophetic signs to tell me that we're toward the end. I can also, by studying the book of Revelation, Daniel, Ezekiel, tell us that things have unfolded in the last 10 years that we couldn't even talk about 10 years ago. So you're accusing us, basically, it sounds like, of being sensationalist. Why don't you just have the guts to say it instead of hiding behind the fact you wouldn't even give your name?
Well, don't get too upset.
I'm not upset. I'm just no. Whoa. No. You're not going to play that manipulation on me. You call in here, you insult us, and then you turn around and say, "Don't get too upset." No, you're not going to play that game with me. You're a coward. You won't even use your real name. Okay, so don't play that manipulative garbage with us. Okay, if you want to call into the show and you want to insult us, be man enough to do it straight out with your name. Have a great day. Dr. Woods?
Well, I think Matthew 24 verse 15. I remember this guy. He wanted to know what Jesus was referring to in Matthew 24 verse 15, verse 16. He's referring to Daniel chapter 9 verse 27. So if I got that wrong, so be it. But I don't think I got it wrong. That's what he was referring to.
So are we crying wolf? Are we crying wolf, Dr. Woods?
Well, are we setting a date?
No.
I mean, are we like the Millerites that set a date for the Lord's return? I mean, what I think all we're saying is, look, the rapture for the last 2,000 years is imminent. It could happen at any moment. And because the rapture happens before the tribulation period, and look at the signs being set up for the tribulation period, the rapture must be coming lickety-split. And I don't think that's really crying wolf. I just think it's taking an honest intellectual look at the world and kind of putting two and two together. So
Why are these people so hostile? Why are these people so hostile? I don't see our people calling into radio shows and being hostile with hosts that hold to their views. Why are these people so hostile to the Bible and a correct dispensational interpretation?
Because that's what 2 Peter 3 said would happen. Those that take the second coming and so forth seriously and literally would be heaped under scorn and criticism. And, it's kind of funny when people criticize the whole subject of Bible prophecy, they're actually fulfilling Bible prophecy without knowing it. So, I would just kind of categorize it that way. I mean, the guy, I don't know, he didn't seem like he wanted to do any real mischief, but he does represent a mindset out there that has sort of this prophetic agnosticism about the end of the age.
Mm-hmm. Well, he leaves voicemails for us, so we recognize it. Yeah, we recognize his voice. He likes.
You got a paper trail.
Oh yeah, we got a paper trail, and we got him saved. Colleen, line 4. Hi, Colleen. Thanks for calling in.
Hi. I'm just wondering, I feel like we're kind of sitting ducks. You talked earlier about cashless society, AI, and all that. So what does one to do to counter that?
Dr. Woods, your thoughts? I mean, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion to cover myself legally. I can tell you what I think in my mind, but you go ahead. I'll go next.
Well, I mean, sometimes I'll pay for something with a credit card and my wife will say, why are we doing that? Why do we want people to know what we're doing or what restaurant we're in or what we're purchasing? So we, whenever possible, pay for things in cash, knowing that if I don't do that, it just contributes to an electronic dossier in me. If I go to a store or a venue and it says we don't accept cash here, I decide I'm not going to come back here. I'm going to patronize places that, will honor cash. And I mean, those are just some basic things I can do at a personal level.
Mm-hmm. As far as preparing for a cashless society, if that's including your question in part, again, I give financial opinion. I would be diversifying into some precious metals, something off their grid, legally, that's off their grid. Because we saw under COVID, they can shut you down, they can deplatform you. We saw people being debanked, right? I would want to not have everything where they have control of everything. Try to get out of debt, get your cost of living as low as possible. I would have some cash on hand. I would diversify into some precious metals. Don't go overboard. But be in a situation, and you should do this anyway, so that if there was a problem with the banking system or something, that you can make it for a while without, it's outside of the system. Let's go to Kathy, line 2. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for calling in, Kathy.
Hi. I don't want to be hostile at all, but I disagree a little bit. many of us are not panicked because we listen to David, who has said, I have been young and now am old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread.
I agree.
So we lean on that an awful lot.
I agree with that. That's not being hostile, quoting scripture. That's not hostile at all, Kathy. I agree 100% with you. That's why I said I don't panic about these things. I sleep really well. That doesn't mean I don't have a responsibility to prepare for something, but my preparation isn't out of fear, anxiety, panic. It's just out of wisdom, right? It's operating out of wisdom. Like I have house insurance and I have car insurance and health insurance. I don't buy those things out of fear, and I don't even buy them hoping I don't even have to use them, right? Same thing here. So I think you can do both, and it sounds like you have that attitude as well. Trusting the Lord, but also preparing and being wise, right? We see that in the scriptures even. All right, stay tuned for Crosstalk. Dr. Woods is andywoodsministries.org. Take care. All right, Dr. Woods, we are back with Dr. Woods. Dr. Woods, President Trump has just come out, here's some new footage, saying he's going to let a lot of Ukrainian refugees stay in the U.S. Take a listen to this.
Will you let those Ukrainians who fled the war to stay in the United States until the war ends in Ukraine?
I think we will, yeah. I think,
you will?
I think we will. We have a lot of people that came in from Ukraine, and we're working with them.
All right, we're going to let them stay till the war is over. I don't know if that means we're going to let them stay beyond that. I have no idea. I do know we're not getting the illegals out of the country fast enough. Even Tom Holman, the borders are saying we are not moving fast enough. Now, maybe that's going to speed up. He's been given some money, I think, through the big, beautiful bill. But the time is moving quickly away. And President Trump has a lot to do. And that's before the midterms. And Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, is showing us right now from his polling that things are not looking good for the midterms for Republicans. Dr. Woods?
Well, related to the immigration issue, you know, I did back in law school, I did take an immigration law course, and that was 1992, 1993. I don't know how much of it I remember, but, you know, you can demonstrate if you're in danger in your own land, you know, that is an exception to the rule of, you know, immediate deportation. So that may be what the President of the United States is referring to. I mean, if these people get shipped back to their own country and their country's at war, you know, it could lead to their physical harm. So it's just a casual, normal exception in immigration law. So I personally wouldn't read too much, you know, into that.
All right, what else are you keeping your eye on in this week's Middle East Bible Prophecy Update? Anything else?
Well, to me, the big deal is the signing of the Genius Act, which we already referenced a little bit, these digital dollars moving us in a cashless direction. And then, of course, there is a meeting coming up, I believe in September, where the nations of the earth are going to sign on to, once again, this ambition that they have to divide the nation of Israel. And I hope people see that for what it is. That's the stage being set for Joel chapter 3, verse 2. And that's just another indicator. And I'll say this again, much to the chagrin of the caller a little earlier. That's much an indicator that we're very close to the tribulation period. And then the rapture of the church, which precedes the tribulation period, must be coming even faster.
The caller acted as though we're not to be watching these signs and speaking of it. Yet Jesus was pretty clear that we should be watching these signs. And there's a special blessing in the very first chapter of the book of Revelation for those who understand it, read it, hear it, study it. I mean, if we're not supposed to be watching for these signs, why would we have a book that tells us what's going on while the churches are on the earth, the 7 churches, church age, which we're in now, and then after their removal, and then there's a blessing for the church to understand this book. It's beyond me why anyone would think that we shouldn't be saying, be ready, right?
Yeah, and you quoted the right chapter, Matthew 16, where verses 1 through 3, where Jesus chastised the Pharisees for understanding weather patterns, but not understanding the messianic time that they were living in. And we have more signs for the second coming than we do for the first coming. And if people have this idea that I'm just going to be agnostic, I don't care about the signs of the times, to me, that's like when I go on a trip or when I leave for the weekend or have to go somewhere, my wife always wants to know when I'm coming back. I mean, she wants to know what my airline schedule is, when she can expect me. And, you know, could you imagine my shock if I left the house and my wife could care less, you know, when I'm returning? She's not interested in any detail related to my return. I would say it's time for marriage counseling, I guess, should that arise. And so I just don't get this mentality where people just say, I don't care about signs related to the return of Christ. That to me shows a lack of love, you know, for the groom, and we're the bride. So maybe they should kind of look at their own spiritual life if that's their attitude, and see what's wrong with it.
Now, you're going to be a speaker at our upcoming 22nd annual National Worldview Weekend. You've been to a lot of these. What makes our conference unique to others you speak at around the country, and why do you think people should attend these real quick?
Well, first of all, the combination of subjects. So, I mean, you've got me coming in, a Bible type guy, but look at all these other people. I mean, they're all patriots and they have their own individual areas of expertise. You know, I brought people to these conferences that maybe are not as enthusiastic as I am about theology, but they love the conference because you've got a network there of speakers that are dealing with a host of subjects. Anybody that's a conservative or a Christian or a patriot, you know, or a biblicist would be interested in. And the other thing I think is unique about your conferences is the enthusiasm. When we were doing the 3 days there at Lake of the Ozarks, and you made me the speaker on Sunday morning, you know, I would.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician,